Shalom, all praises to Yahweh by Shemel-Shai, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect. My name is Jacobo from Plaintables Camp. It's the apostle going into the debasement of currency, and he's going along the lines of the Roman Empire, because Babylon America is the reincarnation of the Roman Empire, and it goes by many names. Assyria, Babylon, Rome, Sodom, Gomorrah. Those are all these figurative names or spiritual names of Babylon or America, United States, because America came into power under the power of the ancient Roman Empire, and the Bible describes America as Babylon. So here the apostle goes into debasement of currency.
It says, in ancient Rome, demonetization primarily refers to the practice of debasement, where emperors like Nero would gradually reduce the silver content of the standard currency. Meaning, you started with a penny, and I'm going to go into that in Revelation chapter 6. A penny was a day's wages for, let's say, a Roman soldier, compared to like a cop. A cop that maybe been on the force for 10 years, he's making decent money. You know, he's got medicals, got dental. You know, he's got certain fringe benefits, and his pay is good. You know, you'd figure after 10 years or so, you go up in rank. Anyway, it says debasement, where emperors like Nero would gradually reduce the silver content of the standard currency, meaning he would put inferior metals. The denarius, which is the money system of Rome, to fund their expenses, essentially making the coins worth less and causing inflation. So inflation is not a modern word, a new word. It goes back to the ancient times. It's when you debase the currency. It says effectively devaluing the existing currency. This practice is considered a key factor in the economic decline of the Roman Empire. But you notice it mentioned Nero. It mentioned Trump. Trump is Nero, and Nero is Trump. Let's get some more information. Roman currency, eventually the economic conditions of the Second Punic War forced the Romans to fully adopt a coinage system. You can go into the history of the Punic War, which came about before the Messiah.
So I looked this up. Under what emperor was a Roman currency first started to become debased? I was trying to see if was there an emperor before Nero, and according to Google's AI, it's saying, according to historical records, the Roman currency, particularly the silver denarius, began to become debased under the reign of Emperor Nero. He reduced the silver content of the coin to finance expenses, marking the first significant instance of currency debasement in the Roman Empire. Okay, they say first significant, so I don't know. No, I know if there's a little deception going on there, but okay, first significant. No, Esau talks. You know, I want to know the exact first one where they started to, because our currency already started to become debased before, you know, Trump, long before Trump. I think when the 60s, I believe, they took it off the gold standard. And even before that, they were already using fractional reserve banking before then. So our currency has been being debased since 1913 or 1912, around there. Probably before that. But I know the Federal Reserve came in around that time. Let's look at that. At what year did the United States start using fractional reserve banking? Oh, wow. Okay. So in 1860s, so the Federal Reserve System was established in 1913, but way before then, they were already using fractional reserve banking since 1860. Now, even if they were using fractional reserve banking, I don't believe the currency was debased. Let me see. I'll ask. Let's see what they say. Okay. Did fractional reserve banking debased United States currency? Oh, it did. Okay, so fractional reserve banking does debase. I thought they still had a standard. So I guess in the very fact that you're using fractional reserve banking debases it. Yes, fractional reserve banking has contributed to the debasement of the United States dollar in the past. Fractional reserve banking is a system where banks only keep a portion of customers' deposits on hand and lend out the rest. This allows banks to create more money, but also increases the risk of bank failure. Okay. Let me see. During the 1860s, was United States currency debased because of fractional reserve banking? That's a little complicated question there. All right, so this is all I could find. 1934. So 1934, 1860s, 1913. So around those times, so it said, I read before that it contributed to fractional reserve banking contributes to currency debasement. But they're not saying whether in 1860 whether it was actually debased. So the United States began using fractional reserve banking in the 1860s when the National Bank Act was passed. So the National Bank Act was passed in the 1860s. But whether it is actually debased during that time, timeline of United States currency being debased starting from the 1860s Bank Act. So I'll quickly go through this. So they've been using paper money, and American currency has been debased before the Bank Act. So maybe that's why they had to have the Bank Act. 1690, paper currency of the United States is born, used by the Massachusetts Bay Colony to fund military expeditions. Other colonies quickly take up the practice issuing paper notes. So maybe they were backed by gold or something. No? It's a rabbit hole, so we got to go look into that. But we can go down to, we had 1739, Franklin's unique colonial notes. So they had some counterfeiting going on there. Let's go to 1775, continental currency. The phrase "not worth a continental" is coined after the Continental Congress issued paper currency to finance the Revolutionary War, currency that quickly loses its value because of lack of solid backing and the rise of counterfeiting. So I'm sure if I go into this, we can figure out that or research that it wasn't backed by anything and why it wasn't backed by anything. So debasement of currency started before the Banking Act and before the Federal Reserve came into existence. So Nero, Trump, for the Roman Empire, he was Nero was it's a first significant debasement. So before Nero, according to how the English is written, there had to be some debasement before. So that was my point. I read earlier. It said he marks the era of significant debasement. All right. So if Trump is Nero, then it's likely that debasement will go even farther. And according to how the English is written, the debasement happened before Nero. As you can see here, there was a debasement happening before the Bank Act and before the Federal Reserve, all the way back in 1775. So it says, yeah, because the bankers didn't issue it. That's what it sounds like. The Continental Congress issued money known as Continentals. Was not backed by anything substantial because they lacked the power to levy taxes, meaning they couldn't guarantee the value of the currency they printed, leading to a rapid inflation and a worthless currency, as they had to print more and more bills to fund the Revolutionary War without a reliable source of income. Essentially, the money was not tied to a physical asset like gold or silver, making it unreliable and prone to devaluation. All right, so Continental Congress didn't have power to levy taxes. So why the hell was it issued? Why wasn't it issued by a organization in the government that could levy taxes? So again, the bankers control all this stuff, aligned with the government, which they're one and the same. So yeah, Nero, first significant emperor that reduced the value of the denarius, but before him, there had to be someone. All right, if we're going along the lines of American currency debasement, and seeing the reflection of the ancient Roman Empire, right, as you just saw. Let's let the apostle finish.
Cassius Dio wrote the following: the death of Caligula, the Senate demonetized his coinage and ordered that they may be melted. The Roman economy, the debasement of the decline of Rome. It says here, history of Roman imperial coinage, money, was a history of deficit spending. We use that term today. Government uses that term today. Deficit spending is when you buy stuff and you don't have the money for it, meaning you don't have the money, but you got a credit card. So you use a credit card. That's why people max out their credit cards, because they think it's free money. It's not free money until it gets maxed out. Then you realize you got to pay it. And then your credit history suffers for that. It says in the intellectual environment of the 1960s to 1980s, monetary explanations for, you got to go open that up, which I'm not going to do. How much was one Roman denarii worth? Denarius is money, denarii is money. About $50, which doesn't make sense because the Romans got a penny. We're going to go into that history. I don't like.
Okay, so what I looked up on my phone was, so they're saying Nero was the first to go below 98%. That's what they're saying. So everyone before that was about 90, not everyone, but starting at, to get a starting point, pre-era, pre-empire, denarius 211 BC, 98 to 99% silver. All right. Early empire, Augustus, is 27 BC, 98%. This is silver. Tiberius, 14 AD, 98%. Caligula, 37 BC, 37 AD, silver, 98%. Claudius, 41 AD, 98%. And then we go to Nero, 93.5%. All right. So he's saying it wasn't 100%, but during the rest of the emperors and pre-empire, or it says pre-empire. So when it was a republic. All right. So Nero was 93%. So started the debasement, but in the United States, it was, it started long before, let's say Nero, right? Or Nero could have been, or so-called Trump could have been, back there. Well, I'm sure he was back there in the colonial era. All right, let's look up silver content during Julius Caesar's time. That's pre-empire. It was a republic. Well, he one that first brought in the empire. All right, so it's still saying 98 to 99%. All right, looking at ChatGPT. All right, so Nero, he brought in the debasement of the Roman Empire. All right, but as the history we just read, it was fluctuating back and forth because they kept using paper and not being backed by anything. All right, so very well could happen, or it couldn't happen. Because it already happened, and during the early beginnings of America, but eventually we know it is going to happen. But it could be Trump, it could be someone after him, because Trump has 4 years. I have 2 Kings 2. This is inflation, and 2 Kings 6 and 24, and it came to pass after this that Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, gathered all his hosts and went up and besieged Samaria. And there is during the time of Ahab, I believe. And there was a great famine in Samaria, and behold, they besieged it during the time of Israel. Jake was starving, or northern kingdom, until an ass's head was sold for 80 pieces of silver, and the fourth part of a cab of dove's dung for 5 pieces of silver. That's 80 pieces of silver. So I believe they translate to 80 shekels. So when they say pieces, I believe they mean shekels. So NLT, New Living Translation. As a result, there was a great famine in the city. The siege lasted so long that a donkey's head sold for 80 pieces of silver, and a cup of a dove's dung sold for 5 pieces of silver. So Jake was just getting rid of their silver for just to eat some flesh and get some nutrients from dove shit, because it satiated you, So 80 pieces of silver. So I looked up the shekel during the East, because the siege of Samaria didn't allow the Northern Kingdom to trade with their neighbors. All right, like Israel traded with the different nations, with the surrounding nations. All right. So they couldn't trade. So look up half a shekel is exactly how it sounds, half a shekel. All right, so a bull, 10 half shekels, so it'll be five shekels. A horse, 14 half shekels of silver, so 7 shekels. So we know a donkey is not worth 80 shekels. All right, so I want you to just look at the math there. All right, so we know a donkey doesn't cost. If a horse costs 7 shekels of silver, all right, or 14 half shekels, a horse. All right, a plow ox, 15 half shekels. All right, so about 7.5 shekels. A bull, 10 half shekels. So the most expensive thing on here is 14 and 15. So a horse and a plow ox, all right, is worth 7 shekels of silver. All right, at least 7 shekels of silver. And just a donkey's head was sold for 80 pieces of silver, or 80 shekels. So this is inflation. So because they could not trade, all right, everything, all the prices went up. All right, so something similar like that could happen here as a result of different taxes that our government is going to put on certain nations that could make the cost of our our products go up. And during this time, there was no debasement of currency. All right. So price of things go up, at least two ways. A siege, like it was here in Samaria, where because of lack of trade, everything goes up, or the lack of products. So if products become more scarce, the price of it goes up, or the debasement of currency. And also want to add, inflation also was caused by local farmland, from my research, local farmland that Samaria didn't have access to, the Northern Kingdom, because the troops cut off access to local farmland that Israel already was planting, out in the areas where it was less population. So basically the suburbs in the country couldn't feed the larger population areas of Samaria. So the Syrians set themselves between the farmlands, local farmlands, and the major population areas. So it was both, inflation happened because of no access to local farmland and no access to trade routes. A sheep costs 100 liters. Let me go down here. As of 492 to 558 BC in Persia, the documents were changed from liters of barley to silver. All right. So we would trade in silver. The shekel, start of the shekel, Europe and Middle East. All right. And so Persia considered so-called Middle East, Syria, Israel, Canaanites. So a sheep cost 3 shekels of silver and a donkey cost 15 shekels of silver. All right, 15 shekels of silver. So from 15 shekels of silver, if we're going by this formula, to 80 shekels of silver. So that's inflation due to a scarcity. All right, so the price of things went up due to scarcity. All right, so very, very well could happen. So let's see that again. 15 shekels, and a donkey's head, 80 shekels of silver, or 80 pieces of silver. All right. So it very well could happen, The Lord knows. We'll see. Donald Trump is signing these executive orders to, as it appears, to, start deportations, and that could start scarcity. Price of things can go up because of lack of workers, if it actually, if they actually enforce it. But we have to wait and see. So I'll leave the Apostles link in the description box. Hope you edified. Shalom.